Ladies and gentlemen, gather round, for I'm about to lay bare a truth as sharp as a stiletto in the dark, drawn straight from the wisdom of that old Florentine fox, Niccolò Machiavelli himself. Picture this. You're navigating the treacherous waters of life, thinking you've got it all figured out. Your alliances solid, your enemies at bay, but lurking in the shadows, disguised as friends, lovers, or partners, are three archetypes of peril that can topple empires, shatter fortunes, and crush the spirit of even the mightiest. I've walked the halls of power in this great land of ours, from the cutthroat boardrooms of Wall Street to the gritty back rooms of Washington. And let me tell you, these dangers ain't just Renaissance relics. They're alive and kicking in our modern America. They'll rob you blind not with a gun but with a smile, a promise, or a glare. Stick with me, and I'll arm you with the cunning to spot 'em before they strike. But first, wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's the neon glow of Vegas or the foggy shores of San Francisco, drop a quick note in the comments with your locale. It'd be mighty fine to know where my fellow truth seekers are hailing from as we dive into this together. These three perilous souls aren't your run-of-the-mill foes. They're the human traps Machiavelli warned about in his unflinching dissection of power. They don't charge at you with banners waving. No, they slither in, exploiting the very frailties of human nature that the prince himself catalogued so ruthlessly. Fail to recognize them, and you won't just lose a deal or a dime. You'll forfeit your autonomy, your edge, maybe even your soul. Most folks cross paths with them daily, grinning like fools, sharing meals, spilling guts, all while the noose tightens. By the time the light dawns, the wreckage is irreversible. You've met them, or you will. Hell, you might be sipping coffee with one right now, and if their facade fools you, consider yourself devoured. First up in this rogues gallery is the Manipulator, that sly operator who wields charm like a scalpel. He don't barge in with fury or fists. Nah, he glides through your defenses with a warmth that feels genuine, an interest that strokes your ego just right. I've seen him in action, these smooth talkers, echoing Machiavelli's counsel that it's better to appear virtuous than to be it. You won't spot his venomous intent, because he buries it under layers of flattery and feigned empathy. He'll make you unclench your fist voluntarily, handing over your hard-earned treasures, be it cash, hours, or allegiance, thinking it's your bright idea. This chameleon hides in the deadliest spot, your own wishful thinking. He's no shadowy burglar. He's the daylight buddy who laughs at your jokes, nods sagely at your tales, and seems to get you deeper than kin. He mirrors your moods, apes your beliefs, crafts this bubble of security that feels tailor-made. Americans, with our love for the underdog story and quick connections, are prime marks. We crave that validation like apple pie. But peel back the layers, and his echo's empty, a hollow shell. He don't shove, he sways, planting seeds in your mind till you harvest his crop, convinced it's yours. Brute force? That's for amateurs, crude and messy. Persuasion's the refined art, and this guy's a master painter. Recall that business ally who preaches mutual dreams, toasts your wins with gusto, grips your hand like iron. While you're basking in the bromance, he's siphoning funds, hijacking leads, positioning you to catch the fallout when the empire crumbles. Or the sweetheart who bathes you in adoration, spinning yarns of forever, making you feel like the sun rises on your say-so. Meanwhile, they're curating a backup plan, ready to bolt with your heartstrings and wallet tangled in their wake. Then there's the pal dishing out counsel wrapped in worry, swearing it's for your own good. Scratch the surface, though, and every nugget steers you toward their gain. It's control masquerading as compassion. A slow-acting toxin that binds you tighter than handcuffs. Folks reckon peril screams loud, with flashing lights and sirens. But Machiavelli knew better. The quiet blade cuts deepest. The manipulator beams, butters you up, concurs, till you're disarmed. He nestles in your blind spot, turning shadows to sunshine. And since he skips the shove, you drop your guard naturally. You surrender your confidence, your intel, your soft spots, because it all seems organic. That's his lethality. He don't snatch. He inspires donation. You're bled dry before the sting hits. As an old hand who's dodged a few such snakes in my time, from shady venture capitalists to silver-tongued lobbyists, I'll echo the prince. This is the politest pilferer you'll encounter. No swordplay, no shouts, no showdowns. He lets you dismantle your own walls, welcoming him as a guest of honor. The door swings wide 'cause you flung it open. The real menace ain't the overt aggressor. It's the one who sells harmlessness like gospel. And since he packs no visible arsenal, utters no ultimatums, the masses stay oblivious till ensnared. Pause here, friends, and ponder. Who's in your circle that concurs a tad too swiftly? Who ladles praise just thick enough to dull your doubts? Who nails the perfect phrase every damn time? These ain't quirks, they're red flags. You could be entangled already, under sway without a whisper of awareness. The horror? You'd pay the toll before the bill arrives. Survey your crew, co-workers, buddies, in a sanctum. Does their concern truly uplift you, or does it line their pockets more? Have you trod paths that screamed your call, yet always tilted their way? Spot it once, note it. Twice. That's design, not destiny. This manipulator tops the list 'cause he's camouflage incarnate, cloaked in your faith, wielding your wants as daggers. His crafts whisper thin, but the fallout's cataclysmic. Unless you master unmasking, you'll ink away your liberty, seed your turf, gift wrap your tomorrow with a bow. In what follows, I'll expose those telltale fissures, the inescapable slips that betray his act. Know 'em, or kiss survival goodbye. You grasp now that the manipulator shuns the siege, biding till you beckon him in. That's why he ruins most before they sniff danger. But here's the rub. Spotting him, aim to cakewalk. He preys on your cravings, affirmation, acclaim, that glow of uniqueness. So he morphs into your echo, bouncing back the ideal you. You dub it rapport. It's really the garrote coiling. To rend his veil, hunt the flaws only the schooled eye catches. That's your ticket to visibility. Sign 1. Overkill. He lavishes charm, focus, vows from the jump. Trusts you prematurely, grants entry unmerited, ramps closeness, biz, pals, romance at warp speed. It flatters, but ought to alarm. True bonds simmer slow, like a good bourbon aging. He rushes to hook you pre-wary, drowning you in bogus bounty and bogus confessions. If trust hurtles like a freight train, if it smacks of kismet, wake up. That's tactic, not serendipity. I've added a touch here from my own scrapes. In American hustle culture, where networking's king, These fast friends pop up at every conference, promising the moon before the handshake dries. Don't bite. Second marker, flattery's fickle spine. He feeds you desired lines, but probe, and they warp to match. He sinks so seamless you think soulmate. But reflections ain't substance. Test his tenets. They'll flex to yours, yesterday's or tomorrow's. No roots, 'cause you're his tether. His creed? Sustain your delusion. Blind agreement as fealty. You're snared. Third, veiled sabotage posing as sage advice. His tips sound shielding, but they erode self-reliance, cloud judgment, pivot you to his lens. I'm wiser, cooler-headed, he implies. Soon, no move sans his nod. Guidance? Nah, steering. And since it's caring, you miss that he's the perennial victor. I've witnessed this in political circles, advisors who help but herd you into corners favoring their agenda. Fourth, vanishing act amid trials. He basks in your highs, ghosts your lows, pops for peaks, dips for valleys. If he surfaces in strife, it's to tout his worth, amplify your debt. Real comrades shoulder loads. He spotlights burdens, palms pristine. Now, reflect. Who's barreling into bonds? Who concurs eternally but folds on pushback? Whose wisdom profits them primo? Who bails in bad times, resurfaces for bounty? These ain't benign, they're beacons. If one rings true, query deeper. Has this fox breached your bastions? Access to confidences, assets, affections. 'Cause he don't plunder wholesale, it's drip by drip. Victims bleed wealth pennywise, assurance quibble by quibble, till autonomy's a memory. That's his terror, erosion, unnoticed till your shell. Hollowed, resistance fades, fate of the blind. But armed with signs, his glamour shatters. No essence, just mimicry. Cease your glow, and he vanishes. Yet confront the thornier. Why admit him? Why lap his lard? Why heed his haste, his hints? He don't forge flaws, he spotlights them. Dishonest answers, doom repeats till self-truth dawns. He'll forever find entry. Brutal nugget. Sometimes the foe ain't him, but your void granting passage. And speaking of passages breached, the manipulator charms entry, but the betrayer, he's already feasting at your feast, quaffing your brew, absorbing your whispers, all while honing the dagger for your spine. This second scourge lurks not outside, but ensconced, blending with belief till his thrust leaves you bare. Suspicion alone won't shield, 'cause blanket doubt poisons all. He flourishes in fusion with faith, rendering you defenseless. Betrayal don't just gut purses. It pulverizes essence, seeding cynicism that no ties true, no vow sacred, no devotion durable. The manipulator filches funds, the betrayer pilfers humanity's hope. Grasp his inevitability, not the outsider foe, but the arm-in-arm comrade, the whisperer granted nearness. Peril spikes with proximity. Who packs punch to pulverize? Not adversaries, you brace for 'em. Not passers-by, you expect zilch. It's intimates who raise. Their turncoat twist seismic, cause unforeseen. Betrayal looms mythic, not mere affront, but assault on fidelity's fabric. Ponder the confidant, privy to frailties, vowing vault-like silence on fears. But opportunity knocks, and he spills for gain, stripping your core bare. Or the co-venturer with ledger keys, plan privy, grin glued. He bides till guard drops, reroutes riches under trust's nose. The paramour pledging eternity, entwined in vulnerability and bliss. Their stab, profanation, not plain loss. Machiavelli's axiom, treason stems from calculus, not caprice. Patient, he skips initial lures, awaiting optimal obliteration. Not content to gain, he craves your crumble. Deeper trust, sweeter his spoil. This carves betrayal keener than swindle. It's the shatter of sanctity presumed. Most fall not to the act, but to denial of its likelihood. Never them, they chant. But annals, epics, existence retort. Oh, they do. Brutus kin to Caesar, Judas to Jesus. Downfalls hasten via insider's incision, not frontal fray. You're no outlier. Loyalty's leasehold, expiring when defection outbids duty. Still, you buck, craving trust's timelessness, deeming some immune. That's the chink, birthing betrayers eternal. They graze the gulf twixt wish and what's. Your denial doubles the blow's brunt. Envision your nearest, table sharers, heart knowers, unthinkable turncoats. Who holds shattering keys, weak spot maps, word wreck potential? Name 'em, and know their betrayals soul vessels, and one's bound to flip. Treason ain't bolt, it's where, prepped, pre-plunge, signs proceed, ignored by choice, to endure, subtle but indelible, smile calibrated, curiosity convenient, fealty flashy, scrutinize for fractures pre-fall. First, secrecy veiled as reserve, all harbor privates, but he hoards excess, plotting. Gabby on trifles, mum on futures, pacts, reckonings. Queries yield fog, dodges, postpones. Trust me, handled. Not safeguard, camouflage. Privacy shields, secrecy brews betrayal. Second, creeping retreat, sans strife. Skips summons, flakes, evades chats, swearing fine. Engaged for perks, AWOL for toil, grin intact, but echoey, detaching destiny, realigning. Familiarity fools you into busy excuses, but pullback reeks only of perfidy. Third, boundary probes, nibbles oaths to gauge give, drips details to detect detection, undercuts slyly, then jests. Dress rehearsals for grand guile, acclimates you to laxity, till disloyalty's norm. Fourth, jealousy in praise's garb, starts booster, sours to spite. Applauds lips, eyes envy-laced, lauds loud, sneers soft. Track reactions to your ascents. Envy's seed sprouts treason, inevitable. Fifth, alliance pivot. Suddenly extols rivals, orbits them, apes their tongue, jests jab you, shadow of sellout, fealties faint. New lord chosen, your barrier, deliberate now, who clams as you confide, retreats denying rift, fractures faith frivolously, praises with poison gaze, tilts toward threats. Shun paranoia tags, these herald havoc. Ignore and embrace the edge. Machiavelli's merciless, treason's chain, not chance. Defense, alertness, not universal wariness. but icy insight on intimates. Foreseeing's not sour, it's salvage. Surprise-free. You're unbowed. The betrayer's shadow lingers, his knife poised in silence. But now we turn to the third and final figure in this grim trinity. The predator. A force so raw, it chills the bone. I've seen his kind in the American crucible. From the corporate sharks who crush with a glance, to the street lords who rule by dread alone. Machiavelli, that keen-eyed sage of power, would nod knowingly at this beast. The predator don't bother with the manipulator's honeyed words or the betrayer's cloaked dagger. He strides in, bold as brass, wielding fear like a sledgehammer. He don't ask for your trust. He demands your submission. His presence alone is a weapon, a storm that smothers resistance before it sparks. Unlike the others, he thrives not in subterfuge but in spectacle, wanting you to feel his weight, to sense the inevitability of his strike. Fear is his fertile ground, and your trembling is the seed from which his dominion grows. This predator ain't negotiating. He don't persuade or plead. He consumes. What makes him terrifying, what I've learned from years navigating America's power plays, is his utter lack of restraint. While most men are shackled by conscience, pity, or second thoughts, the predator casts these aside like dead weight. He moves with a certainty that borders on divine, untouched by the doubts that hobble others. He acts where others falter, speaks what others whisper, takes what others merely covet. I've seen him in boardrooms, silencing VPs with a stare. In politics, where a single barked order scatters aides. Even in families, where a patriarch's wrath bends all to his will. He's larger than life, a juggernaut who seems unstoppable, because he stripped himself of humanity's brakes. You've crossed paths with him, don't kid yourself. The CEO who doesn't charm but intimidates, whose every word feels like a gauntlet thrown. The gang leader who doesn't need to raise a fist because his name alone keeps the block in line. The figure who commands not through love or loyalty, but through the raw certainty that defiance means ruin. Machiavelli taught us that fear is a swifter tool than reason, and the predator wields it masterfully. Men freeze in his shadow, handing over their will without a fight, not because he's fought them, but because his aura promises annihilation if they do. Here's the darker twist, one I've seen play out from Silicon Valley to small-town dives. The predator often wins before he lifts a finger. His reputation does the heavy lifting. His shadow arrives first, and folks start self-censoring, shrinking, surrendering possibilities just to avoid his gaze. In my time, I've watched colleagues mute their ideas, employees ditch ambition, friends bite their tongues, all because a predator's mere existence rewrote their courage. Fear is the chain he forges, and once it's around your neck, you become his enforcer. You police your own thoughts, dim your own light, make yourself smaller to avoid his notice. That's his genius. He don't need to chase you down. You hand him victory by cowering. This makes him devastating, not just for what he does, but for what he makes you do to yourself. You hesitate, you soften, you bend. You sacrifice your potential to appease his dominance. I've seen it in the eyes of young entrepreneurs, dreams snuffed out by a venture capitalist's icy stare, in communities where a single bully's menace keeps everyone in check. The predator rises fast and reigns long, because his victims become his lieutenants, enforcing his rule through their own fear. Yet here's the secret Machiavelli would whisper in your ear. His strength is fragile, built on your dread. Strip that away, and he's mortal, exposed, just a man. The predator's reign lasts only as long as fear holds. The moment someone sees him not as a god, but as flesh, flawed, fallible, his throne cracks. Every tyrant, from history's despots to today's moguls, seems eternal until the day courage rises. I've witnessed it. A quiet employee who stood up to a bullying boss. A neighborhood that banded against a local thug. When fear breaks, the predator's power evaporates like mist in a gale. But until that day, he's a tempest you can't reason with. He don't wait for your betrayal like the manipulator, or strike from within like the betrayer. He hits and keeps hitting, till nothing stands. Look around your own life. Who thrives when you shrink? Who grows taller when you duck? Who commands without explaining, without justifying, simply by being? Who makes you edit your words, your stance, your very self in their presence? These ain't leaders. They're predators. And the longer you let their fear root in you, the more you become prey. Don't fool yourself into thinking they're confined to history books or war-torn lands. They stalk our boardrooms, our homes, our streets, bold as daylight, knowing your fear shields them. The predator operates in cycles, a deliberate dance of domination I've seen repeated from coast to coast. First, intimidation. He enters, and the room is his. No words needed. His posture, his glare, the silence he summons scream that he's untouchable. Then, conditioning. He trains those around him to adjust, to soften their voices, to yield ground unasked. Over time, he builds a world where fear sustains itself. People anticipate his rage, his hunger, his violence, and they rein themselves in before he lifts a hand. By the time he acts, defiance is already dead. His true art lies in making you betray yourself. He enforces this through selective cruelty, a tactic as old as Machiavelli's prince. He don't punish all, just one, publicly, brutally. A firing that humiliates, a dressing down that echoes, an example that burns into memory. I recall a tech startup where one harsh dismissal in a meeting froze the whole team. Everyone thought, that could be me. That single spark spreads fear like wildfire, amplifying his reach without effort. He don't need to fight everyone. One sacrifice cows the rest. Fear, though, ain't static. It demands feeding. The predator stokes it with outbursts, calculated shows of strength, or even silence that lets your imagination run wild. He knows your mind conjures worse than reality, and that dread binds tighter than chains. I've seen it in negotiations, where a silent pause from a powerful figure makes opponents crumble, imagining threats never voiced. Uncertainty is his ally. Your guesses enslave you. But here's the truth he prays you never grasp. His power exists only while you believe it does. Pierce that illusion, and he's stripped bare. He lacks the manipulator's guile, the betrayer's intimacy, fears his only currency. Refuse to pay, and he's bankrupt. Most never reach this point. Broken by his weight, convinced he's invincible. They surrender before the battle, handing him triumph by default. Ask yourself, who do you obey not from respect, but from dread? Who silences you before you speak? Who dims your fire just by standing near? That's the predator, thriving because you've bought his myth of might. His power ain't absolute. It's your compliance. Break the chain of fear, and he's nothing. Machiavelli's lesson is stark. Predators rule till courage topples them. Every despot falls when fear fades, and fall they do, swift as lightning, because their strength was always smoke and mirrors. Now, you know the trio that haunts every corner of our lives. The manipulator, weaving webs of charm. The betrayer, striking from within. The predator, ruling by terror. They're not ghosts of some distant past. They walk among us, in our offices, our homes, our very hearts. You'll meet them, if you haven't already. Fail to see them, and they'll strip you bare, not just of wealth, but of will, of faith, of freedom. But arm yourself with Machiavelli's clarity. See through the charm, pierce the loyalty, shatter the fear, and no soul can chain you. When you next face such a figure, whether in a deal gone sour or a friendship turned cold, you won't flinch, you won't bow. You'll recall this truth: their power is only what you grant them. Deny it, and you're untouchable. The manipulator's spell breaks when you question his flattery. The betrayer's blade dulls when you guard your trust. The predator's roar fades when you stand fearless. This is the American spirit at its core, resilient, defiant, wise to the ways of power. So as you move forward, carry this wisdom like a shield. The most dangerous ain't the stranger in the alley. It's the one smiling at your table, the one whispering your secrets, the one whose shadow makes you shrink. Machiavelli's ghost nods from the shadows, urging you to see them before they strike. Are you ready to face them, to stand unbowed? If this resonates, if you feel the weight of this truth, let me know where you're standing strong. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how many across this great nation are ready to heed the prince's call and guard their souls against these dangers.